Welcome back to day 9 of the 12 days of Christmas with Katie and Angie. I cannot believe we're to day 9 already. The few days, they have absolutely flown by. And I have a really exciting project to share with you today, again with some darling gnomes. I just couldn't help myself. When I started playing with some of these things, I just couldn't wait to show it to you. And we're going to use candy apple and clover, very traditional Christmas colors, with the Jingle Joy paper pack. And we're going to make it match. So I think you'll have a lot of fun with this. The special technique that I want you to pay attention to today is we are going to be dry embossing with our thin cuts. Have you ever wished that we had an embossing folder that went with something you wanted to do, but all we had were thin cuts? Well, I'm going to show you how you can make those work and you can still dry emboss with those. So let's take a look. Okay, here's a real quick look of what we are going to be working with. I will put these dimensions down in the comments below. Basically, you need a clover that's 4 by 5 1/4, 1 by 5 1/4, candy apple 3 3/4 by 5, 1 1/2 by 5 1/4, a black 1 by 6, white daisy 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. You need one little piece of this Lights B&T 2 1/2 by 5 1/4, and then one plaid sheet that's 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. You're also going to need one of our cards and envelopes from the set. And we are going to be taking this light paper and actually making it match our candy apple a little better. And the way I did that was I got out my Spectrum Noir dark red blend tri-blend marker, and I'm going to be using some of the different shades. So I'm using the lighter one down here on these lighter lights. Just kind of bumping them up a notch. And then I'm going to use that medium on this one. And then I will even go in with the darkest one so that we have different shades and blend in this last one. You probably don't want to do too many in that dark one. I think the medium is just about perfect, but I liked how they had various colors, so I still wanted to go with that theme. The green I just left absolutely alone. It matched just fine. Now, this Jingle Joy paper will match my traditional Christmas colors by using that dark red blend. I am going to use a traditional die cutting for the black piece and this Merry Christmas. It is from Yuletide Borders. I'm going to be dry embossing with the Christmas lights. Oh, and I have this darling little gnome. He is from the Gnome for Christmas Stampin' Thin Cuts, and he's this one right here. So we're going to stamp him off. Let's go ahead and do that. So here I'm stamping off my little gnome in Archival black ink, and then I'm going to take and layer up my cardstock that I've spritzed with water and a gasket material underneath it, and the die cut on top, and I'm going to put it through. That gasket sheet will allow it to just give a little as I put it through the machine, and it won't cause it to cut all the way through. So I did that with the different layers. I actually did it on a red layer that was 1 1/2 inches wide, the green 1 inch strip, and then again on the red that goes on the inside. You'll see I have this set to the die cutting and to -1, and the important part is to remember to spritz the paper with the water. That's what helps it stretch so it won't scratch or won't actually crack. And then, you know, you can set things normally when you go to thin cut your little gnome out of your white daisy card. cardstock. When I am cutting the gnome, I wanted to hold the die cut in place. So you'll see I use the Scotch removable tape. It really helps keep the die cut in place without tearing the cardstock at all. I've noticed that washi tape seems to really tear my cardstock, especially if you use close to my heart washi tape that we've had in the past. It's just too high a quality, quite frankly. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and start putting on my layers. I put the black plaid layer down, and then I layer on the little Christmas lights, which I've made red instead of pink, along with the green Christmas lights. I put that about a 1/4 inch up from the bottom, and then I go ahead and I put down the red with the embossed Christmas lights at the very top, and then I will use foam tape to put down the green strip in the middle. That way it pops up. But before I put that down, I wanted to take my silver embellishing thread and kind of wrap it around around that green strip. So I put down my foam tape first so that the embellishing thread would stick, and then I just stuck it to the back and wrapped it around the whole thing a few times, and then snipped it off and stuck that to the back as well. Works perfectly. And I kind of think of like tinsel and garland and things around the Christmas tree, and I thought that kind of went with it. And then when I take my little gnome, I had actually colored him off camera, and I take and I loop up some of that silver embellishing thread again, and I pop up just the bottom of that gnome because the bottom needs to be equal with the top, and his hat will fit over that green. So anyways, I looped up the silver embellishing thread. It looked like he had his lights all in a tangle, and I thought this kind of supposedly a haphazard mess of silver embellishing thread really went along with that, but it's really not as haphazard as it looks. I kind of adjust them so they look just right. And then I put down just a tad bit more adhesive on the card so it has some place to stick. And then the bottom is popped up, the top, that green layer already is lifted, and then I will layer on the green, and then the red. I have also embossed the Christmas lights across the top. And then one last thing that I did was I used the Merry Christmas that's from the Yuletide borders, and it's the same thin cut set that the Christmas lights were from. And I used my liquid glass so that I could put just a little bit on that tiny little thin cut, and I put that on the inside of the card. I thought it just finished it off just right. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you will come back. We still have 3 more days of exciting projects with the 12 days of Christmas with Kati and Angie. I hope you're following along every other day with Angie's projects as well. Here are a couple last looks at the finished card. In a close-up, you can really see that embossing. It just is perfect. And if you have not already, I hope you'll hit like for this video if you found anything exciting and inspirational, and I hope you will hit the subscribe button. And remember, once you hit subscribe, there's a little bell off to the right. If you can click on that bell and turn on all the notifications, you'll know every time that I upload a video. And then make sure that you comment and maybe even share this with some of your crafty friends for some inspiration.